Avi Meyers, Northtown News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Dial us up on the web at ntnm.org. Jewish Chicago, Tra-La, Tra-La will be coming out mid-October for early voting. Over 60,000 circulation this time, plus like an untold number of people checking it on the web. We're going to be all over the place. Jewish Chicago will be everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Well, not in non-Jewish neighborhoods. It doesn't really pay there. But in any event, it is a pleasure to introduce you to somebody I actually originally met, at my synagogue, and somebody who's got a terrific legal mind and a great perspective on things. And he is a professor at DePaul University College of Law, Steve Resnicoff. How are you?
Hi, fine. Thanks very much, Avi.
First of all, pleasure. And what is your official title at DePaul?
Well, I'm a professor of law, and I'm also the director of the DePaul University College of Law Center for Jewish Law and Judaic Studies.
And by the way, along those lines, and if any of you want to contact me, I'll be happy to forward a copy. You actually wrote a 90-something page treatise of sorts that actually the police referred to. And James Roussel, who's one of the best strategic minds I've ever seen in the police department, who also was a colonel in the Marine Corps, who actually led platoons in Fallujah, and also was in charge of drones. And when he was commander here, absolutely loved your paper because it gave him an understanding of Jewish thinking when it comes to what happens when we commit crimes and how we react to society. And it's really terrific stuff. And by the way, I've had about 6 different people email that to me because they know my involvement in community policing.
Interesting.
So yeah, very popular stuff. So what is the focus? So where do you have your degrees from?
Well, I went to Princeton College and to Yale Law School.
You know what? I've heard of those places, definitely. You couldn't get into a good one?
There you go.
I think Yale is actually rated #1 right now.
The law school, I think, the U.S. News and World Report, I think, ranks Yale #1 every year. I think it has, but and Princeton is usually up there.
Yeah, definitely
that may
way
be
up
because
there.
that may be because the editor of the U.S. News and World Report, the family are all Princetonians.
Well, that doesn't hurt, but that still is a very prestigious school. So tell us about the Jewish studies and what your focus is.
Let me tell you, the Center for Jewish Studies and Jewish Law and Judaic Studies, I'm now the sole director. Up to now, I had been co-director with Roberta Quall, a wonderful, wonderful person to be a co-director with. But I'm doing it now, and we're changing our focus a bit. What we always have done 3 things. One is deal with interesting questions of Jewish law for not just lawyers, but for any professional or non-professional, but anybody who has a strong interest in Jewish education. And second, we've done interdisciplinary work. That's to say, to see how Jewish law and secular law interact and what it means if someone wants to live in accordance with Jewish law, what difficulties or what solutions there are when coping with the existence of secular society and the interactions between the two. And third, we focused on, so that would mean we deal with bioethical questions, legal questions, and the like. The third thing was that we focused a lot of programming dealing with issues pertinent to Israel. We would have Israeli law, international law, media bias, and so on. Now, we're going to continue all 3 fronts, but we're going to place a much stronger emphasis on combating the rise of anti-Semitism, discrimination, anti-Semitic discrimination on college campuses. Because we've seen that, with the various political referenda that arise around campuses in the United States, just as they have risen in the past around the world.
It's really unbelievable. I mean, votes to get rid of sabra hummus at college cafeterias.
Right. I actually don't like hummus myself, but I did fight against that.
I'm a big Baba Ganoush person also.
There you go.
I never buy hummus.
but I did.
Or Hamas.
I did work with the JUF and other organizations to try to prevent that from happening at DePaul, and it didn't happen at DePaul. In fact, DePaul, the administration of DePaul was very sensitive to the Jewish community and to Jewish needs. But there, and not everybody who participates in these referenda, even those who are proponents of the referenda, are anti-Semitic by no means. But there are many people who come out with respect to these issues. This is an excuse. They can join the crowd, and you see, as you see today in the last few weeks, you see that the supposedly anti-Israel protests are not anti-Israel protests. You see synagogues vandalized. They're not Israeli synagogues. They're synagogues all throughout Europe. They're synagogues in the United States. We saw in Peterson Park, there were letters put on people's car, private people in their cars, telling them if Israel doesn't get out of Hamas, out of Gaza, we're going to get you, or things to that effect. This isn't anti-Israeli sentiment. These people aren't necessarily, they're not Israelis, and they have no part in Israel, but they're Jews. And so there's a lot of people who are engaging in anti-Semitic behavior, and they're just clothing it by trying to meld into the crowds that are disagreeing with Israelis' policy. So this is a big problem, and we need to. There are laws, secular laws, that provide protection for students in class and out of class from such conduct, but around the country we're seeing verbal and physical intimidation of students and other types of threatened harm, and it's a fear that is going to continue, just as you can listen to the Anti-Defamation League's president, Abram
Foxman.
That's right, Foxman. I just saw this on YouTube recently, talking about how much greater the emotional, the vitriol is against Jews throughout the world and in the United States, not just against Israeli policies. And this is something that's unprecedented.
No, it's definitely true. And, as a matter of fact, anti-Semitic is a kind word. There's a fellow I was very friendly with named Kahana somebody, I think Mayor, who used to like to just say, he will always try to educate me to use the word Jew hater because it was more accurate than anti-Semite on a number of levels. But this is your forum, and we've got a little over a minute left. What would you like to talk about?
Well, maybe I should just say that in our function, what we're trying to do is we're trying to reach out. We have one of our first programs is even before school starts this fall, is to help equip faculty members, academics from universities throughout the area as to how to help protect the Jewish students from this kind of anti-Semitic discrimination on campus, to give them tools, a toolkit as to how to find out what the law is, how to discuss with administrators as to how to implement practices that are positive, and so on. So we're going to try to have programs to educate the schools, to educate the students, and to give the students a little bit more support so they don't feel that they're isolated and abandoned.
One of the things I'd like to mention also, when we are running out of time, is that I know one of the things you do too, together with the Decalogue Society, is you actually give lectures that count as legal credit, which is a whole story for another day how that stuff works. But I know you've done that in the neighborhood and probably downtown in DePaul also. If people would like to contact you or find out more about DePaul's program, who do they contact?
Well, they could contact me directly, and they could contact me by email, Stephen Resnicoff at sbcglobal.net, but they probably won't be able to spell all that. They look on the DePaul.
They'll see it on the screen.
If they look at the law.depaul.edu site for the College of Law, they can find me. I'm the one with the yarmulke.
At this point, we're out of time. Professor Steve Resnicoff, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.